Hey everybody, it's Saturday, which means it's our time of the week to look at the hottest and coldest teams in the NHL, as we do on every Saturday. Some teams playing really, really well, other teams not so much. So before we get into it, I just ask that you please subscribe and hit that thumbs up button if you haven't yet. Both of those things help the channel an absolute ton and are greatly appreciated. But let's get right into it this week, looking at our 5 hottest and 5 coldest teams. And I want to get the bad out of the way early here. So we'll do coldest first. Here's a look at the coldest teams in the NHL right now. Coming in at number 5, the Anaheim Ducks. They are 3-5-2 in their last 10 games. They lost their last game in overtime. And 2 straight games now, they have blown 3-goal leads to the Arizona Coyotes and ended up losing the game, once in regulation, once in a shootout. So couldn't not have Anaheim on the list after those blown leads. It's not been a great past little while here for them. Next on the list at number 4, the Montreal Canadiens. Boy, has their season gone south and gone south quickly. It ended up getting their coach fired, as Claude Julien is no longer the coach of the Canadiens. Dom Ducharme has taken over, and in Ducharme's first game, they had a lead against Winnipeg, but blew it, and are now also 3-5-2 in their last 10 games, lost their last game in regulation, and it has been a really tough stretch here for the Canadiens, who are in danger of potentially falling out of a playoff spot. At number 3, we have the St. Louis Blues. St. Louis is 3-6-1 in their last 10 games. They've lost 3 straight in regulation, and they are really, really struggling right now. Now, injuries are playing a huge part in it. They have a ton of regulars out of the lineup. The good news is Vlad Tarasenko should be coming back here very, very soon, but it's been a really bad stretch for the Blues. They are struggling in a lot of different areas. They're not scoring a lot of goals. When they do score goals, they struggle defensively. When they play decent defensively, they aren't able to score enough goals. And it's been a really tough stretch for the Blues, who are kind of sliding a little bit out west. So St. Louis has had a rough little stretch here the past couple of weeks. Not as bad, though, as the Dallas Stars, who only have 2 wins in their past 10 games and come in at number 2 on this list. 2-4-4. They lost their last game in regulation after having a 2-goal lead on the Florida Panthers. They ended up giving that up and losing 3-2 in reg. Really tough loss there for Dallas. And now the 4 overtime losses that they were at least able to get a point out of has really helped Dallas in the standings. But to only have 2 wins in your last 10 games, that is not a good stretch, particularly for a team that is expecting to be a playoff team this year. And was in the Stanley Cup Finals last year. So Dallas with definitely not a great stretch here, and they are pretty ice cold, not being able to win games so far. And they've got a really tough matchup with the Tampa Bay Lightning today, so obviously that's not going to help. And finally, that brings us to number 1, the coldest team in the NHL, and a pretty obvious choice because they definitely have the worst record in the league in their past 10 games. It is the Vancouver Canucks. Just 2-6-2 in their last 10 games. They've lost their last 2 in regulation, and the disaster of a season continues for Vancouver. Not much else to say other than just this year's been absolutely awful. And it continues to be that way. They can't find ways to win. They're giving up too many goals. Their offense is disappearing when they need it the most. And they just continue to lose. So I don't know what's wrong or how to fix what's going on in Vancouver. Their roster on paper should be somewhat decent, but they have not been this season at all. They're not getting the goaltending. They're not getting the defense. They're not getting... they've been getting decent offense, but not at the right times. And overall, it's just been a disaster of a year. So they are the coldest team in the NHL right now with a 2-6-2 record in their last 10. Now we're going to switch things over to the positive side of things. it's time to take a look at who's playing really, really well. So here are our hottest teams in the NHL right now. Coming in at number 5, the Minnesota Wild, who have been lighting it up recently. 7-3-0 in their past 10 games, but on a 5-game win streak, including beating the LA Kings last night, which snapped the LA Kings 6-game win streak and knocked them off of this list. So Minnesota really, really rolling right now, playing very good hockey since they've come back from their little COVID break there where they had some COVID issues. But since coming back, they have been awesome. And they are climbing the standings out west, to say the least. And 7-3 with a 5-game win streak definitely gets them on the list. There were a lot of teams who were 7-3 in their past 10 games, but Minnesota gets on because they have the longest current active win streak out of any of those teams. So Mini comes in at 5. At 4, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs, just slightly better, 7-2-1. So the only difference is an OT loss rather than a regulation loss. A 1-game win streak. They did win their last game after losing the game before to the Calgary Flames. But 7-2-1 in their last 10. They've got 15 wins on the season, the most in the NHL. And Toronto just keeps on rolling along. The Maple Leafs are playing really, really well this year. Lately, they've been without Freddie Anderson. He should be back soon, but Michael Hutchinson's played the last couple games in goal. And, they've been able to win a game with Hutchinson in net, so that's a really good sign for them. Not much else to say other than Toronto just keeps on rolling along this season. Also 7-2-1 in their last 10 games, but with a 2-game win streak, kind of quietly, is the New York Islanders. The Islanders, after a tough couple games against the Pittsburgh Penguins, really their only bad spot in the last couple of weeks here. Last 10 games, they've got 7 wins. They're also 7-2-1, and they've been playing really good hockey. So the Islanders are kind of quietly moving themselves up the standings and keeping themselves very much in contention in the East. And they've looked really, really good here recently, but not quite as good as the number 2 team on the list. The Chicago Blackhawks. Who would have guessed that Chicago would be this good this season? I know I was dead wrong about this team, but they are 8-2-0 in their last 10 games with a 2-game winning streak. And anytime you win 8 out of 10, that is a really, really good stretch. And that gets Chicago up to number 2 on the list, as they are having a phenomenal season and just keep on rolling out there in the Central, trying to be a playoff team this year in a year where nobody really expected it. And that finally brings us now to number 1, who are also 8-2-0 in their last 10 games, but on a 5-game winning streak, the Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton has been absolutely tearing it up in the month of February. They had a really rocky start to the season, a very average start. But their last 10, 11 games have been absolutely phenomenal. They've ripped it up in the month of February, and they have brought themselves right up to second place in the North Division, just a little bit behind Toronto, and they are closing. If Toronto wasn't playing almost just as well, Edmonton would be catching them even more and maybe would have caught them because they have been awesome lately. Again, 8 wins out of 10, absolutely phenomenal, and they are the hottest team in the NHL right now with that 5-game win streak and 8 wins in their last 10 games. So, there are our 5 hottest and 5 coldest teams currently in the NHL. We'll see what this looks like next week. If obviously the order will probably be a little bit different. We might see some new teams come onto the list, some teams drop off. We got a whole week of hockey ahead coming up, and it's always fun to look at this. So we'll see what the lists look like next Saturday. But until then, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon, merchandise store, and donation link are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.